What secrets did the ancient Egyptians hide that could change everything we think we know about them? For thousands of years, they lived along the Nile, raising colossal pyramids and temples that still baffle modern architects. But beyond stone and gold, the ancient Egyptians left behind hidden truths, secrets woven into their medicine, their daily lives, their beliefs that could rewrite our entire vision of this civilization. Imagine opening a scroll written over 3,000 years ago and finding detailed instructions for surgery, wound treatment, and even the use of natural antibiotics like honey. The Edwin Smith Papyrus reveals that Egyptian physicians were more than healers. They were pioneers of anatomy and science. They performed procedures with such skill that some methods resemble modern medical practices. This was not primitive guesswork. It was knowledge carefully studied, tested, and preserved. And what about the workers who raised the pyramids? For centuries, myths told us they were slaves in chains. Yet archaeology paints a very different picture. Skilled laborers lived in organized villages built near construction sites. They had barracks, bakeries, breweries, and even medical facilities. Workers rotated in shifts, were given rations of bread and beer, and were buried in tombs that honored their service. The pyramids were not monuments of cruelty, but of coordination, teamwork, and human determination. Can you imagine the logistics, the planning, the human effort behind every single limestone block? Each piece tells a story of ingenuity and perseverance. Religion, too, carried mysteries deeper than myths of gods and curses. Pharaohs were seen as living gods, yes, but their reigns were filled with practical struggles, taxation, diplomacy, agriculture. Temples were more than sacred places. They were laboratories of mathematics and astronomy. Priests tracked the movements of stars with astonishing precision, predicting the Nile's floods, the heartbeat of Egyptian life. Their calendars shaped farming, trade, and even political power. And these calculations were not for show. They determined whether a family would survive famine or thrive in prosperity. Symbolism was everywhere. A single color, a small amulet, even the position of a hand in a painting could speak volumes. To the untrained eye, it was decoration. To the Egyptians, it was a coded language, messages of protection, authority, or divine favor. The Ankh symbol was not just an artistic flourish, it carried the promise of life itself. Every carving, every brushstroke, every gesture was intentional, conveying messages that only the educated, initiated, or priestly class could fully understand. Have you ever wondered why their art feels so alive, so precise, almost magical? That is the power of their symbols. And then there were the mummies. What we see in museums today are only fragments of a much deeper practice. Mummification was not superstition, it was chemistry and psychology combined. Egyptians believed preserving the body preserved the soul, so embalmers developed complex formulas of resins, oils, and salts. Even today, scientists struggle to replicate their methods perfectly. Some mummies are so well preserved that fingerprints remain visible after thousands of years. Funerary texts describe spells, rituals, and incantations that guided the soul through the afterlife. But the process itself also reveals incredible anatomical knowledge, far beyond what many civilizations of the time could achieve. But Egypt was not only about the afterlife, it was alive with politics, trade, and intrigue. Merchants sailed across deserts and seas, bringing cedar from Lebanon, gold from Nubia, and lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. With these goods came new ideas, artistic influences, technologies, and even diplomatic marriages. Behind palace walls, advisors whispered, priests schemed, and royal courts became arenas of power. A single betrayal, a single alliance could alter the fate of an entire dynasty. Imagine the tension, the strategy, the subtle games of influence that determined the course of history. And perhaps the most surprising truth of all, women in ancient Egypt held rights and influence rare in the ancient world. They could inherit property, run businesses, initiate divorce, and even rule as pharaoh. Think of Hatshepsut, who wore the royal beard and reigned with authority for over 20 years, or Nefertiti, whose image still captivates us today. These women were not anomalies. They were part of a society where intellect and capability mattered. Their legacies remind us that Egyptian society was more complex and advanced than we often imagine. Art, architecture, and engineering were intertwined with knowledge and philosophy. Temples were aligned with the stars. Statues conveyed power, balance, and spiritual harmony. Mathematics was not abstract, it was practical, applied in surveying lands, calculating taxes, and planning monumental constructions. Even music and poetry carried encoded wisdom, blending aesthetics with education and spirituality. Every element of their culture contributed to a civilization that endured over 3 millennia. Even today, their legacy surrounds us. From architecture and engineering to mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy, echoes of Egypt continue to shape our world. But perhaps their greatest secret was not hidden in tombs or temples. It was their vision of life itself. They embraced curiosity, discipline, and the understanding that life was part of an eternal cycle. That pursuit of wisdom, of knowledge, of mastery over their environment, and understanding of human potential is what allowed their civilization to endure for thousands of years. So next time you see a pyramid, a hieroglyph, or a golden mask, remember, beneath the surface lies a civilization whose mysteries challenge our imagination and whose secrets continue to echo across the ages. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient Egypt, follow the profile to discover more hidden stories and forgotten truths.